In 1964, Japanese audiences witnessed something unprecedented. Not just another monster battle, but a collision between nuclear terror and natural beauty that would define kaiju cinema forever. Mothra vs. Godzilla wasn't simply a clash of titans. It was a turning point where Toho Studios transformed destruction into poetry, corporate greed into cautionary tale, and a giant moth into an unlikely hero. But behind those shimmering wings and radioactive breath lies a production story as wild as any monster rampage. From suits catching fire to pop stars playing magical fairies, from radioactive paint to typhoon disasters, this film's journey to the screen was just as chaotic as the battles it depicted. These are 15 weird facts about Mothra vs. Godzilla, the movie that proved nature could fight back and win. Number 1. The twin fairies were real pop stars. The Shobijin, those mystical twin fairies who spoke for Mothra, weren't cast from obscurity. They were played by the Peanuts, one of Japan's hottest musical acts in the 1960s. These identical twin sisters had topped the charts with multiple hit songs before stepping into their tiny costumes. Toho knew exactly what they were doing. By casting actual celebrities, they guaranteed built-in publicity and gave the film crossover appeal beyond the monster movie crowd. The Peanuts brought genuine star power to roles that could have been throwaway parts. Their harmonized singing wasn't dubbed. Those were their real voices, weaving through the film like a haunting lullaby for a dying goddess. For audiences at the time, seeing their favorite pop idols appear as miniature mystical beings was like watching Beyoncé show up as a fairy in a modern blockbuster. It made the fantastical feel oddly real. Number 2. The film was almost the end for Godzilla, or was it? Toho didn't officially plan to kill Godzilla, but during early story development, the studio seriously considered closing his chapter. After King Kong vs. Godzilla's massive success, producers debated whether they had already peaked. Could lightning strike twice? Some proposals had Mothra defeating Godzilla so decisively that the monster would vanish beneath the ocean, ending the series on a somber, almost mythic note. Ultimately, financial reality won. Godzilla was a cultural juggernaut, and Toho knew audiences weren't ready to say goodbye, but the shadow of that discussion shaped the tone. The battles feel weightier, more final, as if both monsters are fighting for their very existence. You can feel that sense of this could be the last one in every frame, even though it wasn't. Number 3. It's secretly an environmental allegory. Beneath the monster mayhem lies a sharp critique of corporate greed. The plot revolves around a greedy businessman exploiting Mothra's egg for profit, treating a sacred natural wonder like a carnival attraction. This wasn't accidental. Japan's rapid post-war industrial boom had come at a cost. Pollution, environmental destruction, and the prioritization of profit over nature were hot-button issues. The film channeled that anxiety into its narrative. The villains aren't just greedy. They represent an entire system that commodifies and destroys the natural world without consequence. When Mothra emerges to reclaim her egg, it's nature fighting back against human arrogance. The message was subtle enough to pass as pure entertainment, but clear enough that Japanese audiences understood the subtext. Decades before environmental themes became mainstream in cinema, this kaiju film was quietly preaching conservation wrapped in rubber suits in miniature cities. Number 4. Godzilla's roar was tweaked, not broken. That legendary roar we all know didn't change because of a broken suit, it changed because of Toho's growing sound mastery. By 1964, the studio was using improved microphones and audio mixing techniques. The engineers remastered the original 1954 sound, created by rubbing a resin-coated glove across a double bass string to make it deeper and more menacing. It wasn't an accident, it was evolution. The new roar perfectly matched the film's darker tone and Godzilla's heavier design. Fans didn't know it at the time, but Mothra vs. Godzilla marked the beginning of a subtle sonic refinement that would shape how the King of the Monsters sounded for decades. Number 5. The Godzilla suit nearly caught fire. During the oil refinery scene, Haruo Nakajima, the man inside the monster, endured intense heat from practical explosions surrounding him. Sparks singed parts of the rubber suit, forcing the crew to stop filming and cool him down. Though no full fire broke out, the damage was real, and pieces of the costume had to be patched mid-shoot. It wasn't the first time Nakajima risked injury inside the suit, but it became one of the most dangerous sequences in Toho's history. What you see on screen, flames reflecting off Godzilla's scales, smoke curling around his body, isn't just movie magic. It's a performer enduring real heat for the sake of cinematic chaos. Number 6. Mothra's puppet was massive. The adult Mothra puppet used for close-ups was one of Toho's most complicated creations to date. With a wingspan stretching nearly 15 feet and a mechanical system of wires, pulleys, and motors to simulate lifelike movement, it weighed several hundred kilograms. Each shot required a small army of technicians operating in perfect sync, some pulling cables, others controlling the blinking eyes and flapping wings. The puppet was so heavy that one misstep could snap its support rig. Despite the frustration and frequent repairs, the final result captured Mothra's elegance on camera. Watching her glide across miniature landscapes, you'd never guess she was a machine barely holding together behind the scenes. Number 7. The giant egg that started it all. Contrary to popular myth, producer Tomoyuki Tanaka didn't spot a massive egg at a fair. But the giant egg idea came from a simple image that stuck in writer Shinichi Sekizawa's imagination. Something fragile, sacred, and exploited by human greed. That egg became the perfect metaphor for post-war Japan. Rapid industrial growth threatening nature's balance. It gave the movie both its plot and its heart. When Mothra defends her egg, she isn't just fighting Godzilla, she's fighting the arrogance of mankind. Sometimes the strangest, simplest ideas become the soul of a film. Number 8. Mothra's death scene was powerful enough without cuts. There's a long-standing rumor that Toho deleted an even sadder version of Mothra's death. In truth, the scene was shot almost exactly as audiences saw it. Ishiro Honda trimmed a few seconds for pacing, not censorship. What remained was still heartbreaking. Mothra's wings collapsing as her fairies sing a mournful farewell. The brilliance lies in restraint. Honda knew that less was more. The scene doesn't need blood or prolonged agony. It makes you feel something for a creature that can't even speak. That's filmmaking magic few monster movies ever achieved. Number 9. Mothra's wings were painted with radioactive material. Creating Mothra's iconic shimmering wings required special paint that would glow beautifully under the studio lights. The art department mixed up a custom formula, and the results were stunning. The wings caught the light perfectly, creating an ethereal, almost magical effect. There was just one problem. The paint was mildly radioactive. Nobody knew at first. It was only after production wrapped that someone tested the materials and discovered the truth. The paint contained compounds that emitted low-level radiation. Nothing immediately dangerous, but concerning enough that Toho banned its use on future productions. The irony was perfect. A film about the dangers of nuclear weapons and radiation featured a creature whose beauty came from actual radioactive materials. Mothra, the symbol of nature and purity, was literally glowing with the same element that created her enemy. Decades later, those original wings likely still carry trace radiation. The moth's shimmer came with a half-life. Number 10. The Godzilla suit was reused from King Kong vs. Godzilla. After the expensive production of King Kong vs. Godzilla in 1962, Toho wanted to cut costs wherever possible. The solution? Reuse the Godzilla costume. With some refurbishment and touch-ups, the 2-year-old suit could serve for another film. The problem was wear and tear. Rubber ages badly, especially when subjected to the punishment of stunt work, pyrotechnics, and being dragged through miniature cities. During filming of Mothra vs. Godzilla, the suit began literally falling apart. Scales peeled off mid-scene, seams split, the tail lost chunks of material. The crew kept emergency repair kits on set and would frantically patch the costume between takes. Some shots required careful camera angles to hide the damage. Others were completed anyway, with editors hoping audiences wouldn't notice the deteriorating monster. Toho learned an expensive lesson. Saving money up front cost them time, stress, and quality control. Future productions would use fresh suits, but Mothra vs. Godzilla remains forever marked by its budget-conscious decision to resurrect a costume that desperately needed retirement. Number 11. Haruo Nakajima got stuck in a sandpit. The beach fight sequence looked dramatic on screen, but behind the scenes it nearly became a tragedy. Haruo Nakajima, already dealing with a heavy, unwieldy costume, was performing a scene in a sandy area when disaster struck. The suit's weight, combined with the loose sand, created a sinking effect. Nakajima began to sink deeper with each movement. Inside the costume, he couldn't see clearly or communicate effectively. Panic set in. The crew noticed something was wrong when Godzilla stopped moving entirely. They rushed over and realized Nakajima was trapped, genuinely stuck in the sand with no way to pull himself out. It took several crew members to physically dig around the costume and extract him. The actor was shaken but unharmed. After that incident, the crew began testing ground stability before any outdoor Godzilla scenes. Nakajima later joked that Godzilla had survived nuclear bombs and alien invasions but nearly met his end at the hands of a simple beach. Even monsters aren't immune to quicksand. Number 12. Mothra's larva scene was a sticky disaster. When Mothra's larvae hatch and begin weaving their silk around Godzilla, audiences saw one of the most mesmerizing moments in kaiju history, but behind the camera it was chaos. The sticky silk wasn't computer-generated magic or light foam. Toho's effects team mixed gallons of syrup, latex, and detergent to create a goopy web-like texture that would cling realistically to miniatures in the Godzilla suit. It worked too well. The mixture oozed into every crevice of the miniature city, hardening overnight like glue. Crew members spent days scraping it off, and many of the destroyed buildings couldn't be salvaged. Even Haruo Nakajima, trapped inside the heavy suit, struggled to move as the slime stiffened around him. At one point, he was practically glued in place while the cameras kept rolling. Despite the mess, the results were worth it. The shot of Godzilla writhing and webbing became one of Toho's most iconic images, so authentic that you can practically feel the weight of that sticky nightmare. It's the kind of moment that proves movie magic sometimes comes from pure painstaking labor and a lot of syrup. Number 13. It was the first Toho film shown in US drive-ins under two different names. When Mothra vs. Godzilla made its way across the Pacific, American distributors faced a marketing dilemma. How do you sell a monster movie starring a giant moth to audiences who might laugh it off? The answer: keep her identity secret. The US release was retitled Godzilla vs. the Thing, and every poster and trailer teased the mystery without showing Mothra at all. The marketing campaign described the Thing as a terrifying new creature with unstoppable power, leaving viewers guessing until the big reveal. Even the film's title card hid Mothra's name, playing the whole thing like a cryptic horror mystery. The strategy worked beautifully. Curious drive-in crowds flocked to theaters, expecting something grotesque and alien, only to discover a majestic guardian deity instead. The misdirection turned into one of Toho's most clever marketing stunts ever, proving that mystery could sell just as well as monsters. Long before modern spoiler-free campaigns, Godzilla vs. the Thing taught Hollywood a valuable lesson. Sometimes what you don't show is what hooks the audience. Number 14. A massive typhoon delayed production. Nature itself seemed to join the production, and not in a good way. Midway through filming, Japan was hit by a devastating typhoon that tore through the Toho backlot and damaged multiple outdoor miniature sets, including the elaborate island where the film's final battle would unfold. The winds ripped apart the scale palm trees, scattered model buildings, and flooded the entire set. Instead of scrapping the scenes, director Ishiro Honda and effects master Eiji Tsuburaya made a bold call: rebuild everything from scratch. Crews worked night and day, piecing together the miniature world plank by plank, using photographs of the original set as blueprints. It cost time, it cost money, and it nearly derailed the schedule, but the dedication paid off. The irony wasn't lost on anyone: a movie about nature's fury being halted by actual nature. When filming resumed, the cast and crew joked that Mothra herself had sent the storm as a warning. In the end, the typhoon became part of the movie's mythology, a real-life reminder that in Toho's world, even the weather had kaiju-level timing. Number 15. The movie's success saved Toho's kaiju division. By the time Mothra vs. Godzilla began production, Toho's monster division was on uncertain ground. King Kong vs. Godzilla had been a hit, but executives worried the genre might already be running out of steam. The elaborate sets, mechanical effects, and costly suits made each kaiju film a financial gamble. Some within the studio quietly suggested scaling back or ending the giant monster experiments altogether. Then came Mothra vs. Godzilla. Released in the spring of 1964, it was a smash. Critics praised its balance of spectacle and substance, calling it the most polished and emotionally resonant kaiju film yet. Audiences returned for repeat viewings, and the movie's box office numbers blew past expectations. That success didn't just secure Godzilla's future, it saved Toho's entire special effects department. The studio immediately greenlit Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, for release later that same year, officially launching the shared Toho monster universe. Without Mothra vs. Godzilla, we might never have seen Rodan, Ghidorah, or the epic monster crossovers that defined the next decade. In the end, Mothra didn't just save her egg on screen, she saved the very franchise that gave her life. Nearly 60 years later, Mothra vs. Godzilla endures as one of the finest entries in the entire franchise. It balanced spectacle with substance, environmental warning with pure entertainment. Behind those epic battles were radioactive paint, burning costumes, and sets destroyed by actual typhoons. Every frame was a challenge, and every challenge became part of the legend. The film didn't just pit two monsters against each other. It proved that kaiju cinema could carry real themes, genuine emotion, and timeless relevance. And that's why Mothra vs. Godzilla remains essential viewing. It reminds us that the greatest movie magic happens when creators refuse to play it safe, even when the suits are on fire and the props weigh a ton.